Everyone. Just make sure that you're on mute, please. Welcome, Annette. Welcome, Ebolia, Suen. And thank you for being here. So let's get started. Let's dive in. My name's Brenda Rogers, and I'm in my kitchen, my nourishing kitchen. And it's all about nourishment, and I'll explain what that is. Specifically for me, nourishment is about providing the body with the nutrients that it needs for cellular health. And that is two things primarily. That's ensuring the food that we eat has those nutrients in them. And also that the nutrients in those foods are bioavailable or available to our bodies. So just because something has iron in it doesn't necessarily mean that we're absorbing it. So nourishment and nutrient density is really about those two things. Now, just to give you a little bit of background about me, I have been a naturopath for almost 35 years. My favorite thing is food as medicine. And I think I've done this sort of evolution in the process of working for different companies and being a naturopath and in practice and growing up myself with natural medicine, that I have come back to what I think is simple. I've come back to what I think is source for wellness, and that really is heart and spirit. And I love helping people to find their connection to their inner wisdom and bringing that into the way they eat, the way they live their life, the way they find their sacred purpose and all that kind of thing. And I also really believe that so many of the current conditions out there in the world, and even the menopausal ones, are simply at the base of it is a lack of nourishment. And I personally and professionally believe a lot of the nutrition knowledge that we're given through media channels, through social media, through even practitioners and doctors and all this kind of thing, I actually think a lot of it is rubbish. And there you go. I'm over 50, so I'm allowed to have an opinion, and that's it. I think that that we can do a lot better with our understanding of the wise traditions. And I am a wise traditions practitioner as a nutritionist, which means that I follow the principles of the Weston A. Price Foundation. Look that up, Google it if you'd like to know more. I did do 4 presentations last year for ATMS, and that we went through lots of stuff in detail. So if you'd like to see that, you can find that through ATMS. And also, in a way, I'm building on that. So that was kind of the fundamentals. I'm building on that. So some of the stuff that I'm talking about, I'm going to assume a bit of pre-knowledge. Don't worry if you don't have that knowledge. You can get it. I can explain things, put a question in the chat. I don't mind. I'm based in Canberra. I am a practicing naturopath. I call myself a body whisperer as well, because I help people interpret what their bodies are trying to tell them to help them on their, their own personal journeys, whatever language you want to use for that, to find the flow in their life, to find sacred activism, sacred purpose, that kind of thing. I'm also a general manager and part owner of a business some of you may have heard of called The Hierophant, and now called the H Dispensary. We've had a makeover, we've had a rebrand, we've got some women involved in that business, and we're taking it places. So if you would like to find me online, look up the hdispensary.com and you'll find me there, and you can reach out if you'd like. But yeah, feel free to post things in the chat. Oh, Jenny, hi. It's a business, it's a clinic, a dispensary, a shop, a school, and whatever else we can add to it, wholesale, online. We're going places, darling. So check us out. the business itself has been there as a clinic, and school's been there almost 40 years. So it's a bit of a legacy in Canberra and some people around Australia. All right, so let's dive in. The topic is about menopause, which can really include perimenopause starting somewhere after 40, through to menopause, the ceasing of the period around 51 on average, but then even into our 50s, and perhaps erroneously, but even somewhat into the 60s as well. So I had a client recently, she thought her mood swings were because of the menopause. She was 61. I said, no, darling, that was 10 years ago. And we had a different kind of conversation after that. So a lot of misinformation, a lot of lack of information around this rite of passage and this stage of life. So my mission is to really correct that as much as I can possibly do, and to empower women to find their being a woman. Really, it's just, what is being a woman? That whole conversation. So typically the conditions that we're most scared of are, or the ones that, if you believe in statistics, are kind of the ones we're most concerned about: depression, and with that goes suicide, unfortunately. Cardiovascular disease, which is our biggest killer generally anyway, and breast cancer. So breast cancer, cardiovascular disease, and depression are your typical high, most common ones. Osteoporosis is in there, of course, as well. But the ones that sort of kill us more quickly, or that we tend to be afraid of, are those three. So I'm just using a little bit of depression as a sort of more an example of what we're doing here, because with nourishment and going back to cellular health, we're talking in a little way general. So, which foods are the foods that support the body for menopause? Well, they're actually the foods that support cellular function, production of hormones and cortisol production, and nourish the nervous system, keep the nervous system calm. All these things are fairly general, and that's naturopaths. We kind of think like that, systems based rather than symptoms based. At least that's how I was trained 40 years ago, or something like that. So depression has become a pretty big issue at the Western world, maybe even non-Western world. The statistics are fairly horrendous. And then the medicating, the chemical solutions, whatever they might be, just so many chemical solutions. And is that the answer? Well, for some people it is, that's fine. And for others, they're not looking for that. They're looking for something else. And so you go to the internet for information on what should I eat. And even the gurus might be saying something like cherries, I think. Cherries have dopamine in them, or melatonin, or something like that. How many cherries can you eat? Kale, I can't stand kale, so it doesn't even enter my kitchen. So that's not going to help me. Things like that. So fiber, not very helpful advice, and really coming from a lack of understanding of how the brain works and how the body works, which is only really available in small circles. Nutrition is not really well understood, certainly in medical industry, in the pharmacy industry, not well understood, or at least that's what it looks like. Certain pockets of the world, some of you may know Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, who is the founder of the GAPS diet. And then, of course, there's the Wise Traditions diet, which is Sally Fallon-Morell and the Weston A. Price Foundation. That's, to me, amazing. So Some of the literature will also tell you, vitamin D is important for mood and menopause. B12 is important for hormone balance. Zinc, of course, is very important. Maybe B6, but where do we actually get these nutrients in our food? Now, a lot of the information that I find will give you the list of but we'll leave animal foods out. And yet the best source of most of these things is liver. And I believe liver should be something that we eat in the form of pate or whatever once a week. So that's not common knowledge, and people will often curl up the nose going, yuck, my father used to eat lamb's fry and that kind of thing, but thank goodness I don't need to do that anymore. But actually, yes, you do. It's the best food on the planet in fact, it's really a multivitamin and mineral and everything else in a food, or actually, you can get capsules as well. So no, nutrition is not taught in medical school. And so, it makes us vulnerable to the information out there. We're not well educated. We're not taught at a young age. In some of the traditional cultures, as soon as you hit the 13, that rite of passage there, the elders would teach good nutrition. We don't do that in our culture so much. So obviously for vitamin D, getting adequate exposure to sunlight, of course, but really that's only the midday sun in summer, roughly. And how many of us are outside in the midday sun in the middle of summer? Certainly not in Canberra. You'd burn up into a crisp. And so in those other months, and for the rest of us, we need to get that through food. And where do you get that? Yeah, liver, shellfish, some plant foods, of course, but not always in a great form for at least for the vitamin D. So my mantra is really to bring back a positive perspective on animal foods. And what I mean by animal foods is dairy and meat and animal fats, butter and ghee, and this is pork lard from my local butcher. And often the way our grandmothers, and really these are the nutritional foods that sustained generation after generation after generation, where they didn't have the problems that we're currently having. So it may be unconventional, it may be controversial, but this is accurate traditional information. So I don't want to say too much more. Let me just see my notes here, see if there's anything. There's so much information about arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid is really brain food, and we need a lot of it, and that's only available through red meat and animal foods. That's part of that internal motivation, your internal cannabinoids, so that those feel-good hormones or neurotransmitters, that's all really coming from these beautiful fats, vitamin A and vitamin D, cod liver oil, etc., etc. So I do have examples here of, what you could eat typically for breakfast, or even in the 1800s, what they typically ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I can answer that question as we go along if anyone's interested. But really what today I wanted to do is actually bring you is often a vegetarian food, but with a nourishment twist. So, and that's lentil soup. So lentil soup is, a staple for a lot of people, but really is very high in carbohydrates. And for many people, too high in fiber. So it causes bloating and gut irritation. And that's a good sign that something's not right. So if you have bloating and pain and gut irritation, the gut's unhappy. The bacteria, the bugs in there, they're not happy. So going back to that, digestive health is super important for menopausal well-being. It's the foundation of everything, as we know. And then having a diet that actually promotes good gut healing and feeding the right bacteria, feeding the gut. This is what this Wise Traditions diet is fundamentally about. So I have done a lot of prep work for you guys. we are going to make lentil soup. So first thing I've done is, let me see if I can do this for you. I have fried up some carrots and some, kind of got a little bit burny there, but that's going to be flavor, right? Leek and carrots, and I fried it up in butter. Not too hot, very gentle so that the butter doesn't get burnt, although I did burn them a little bit, so because I was doing 5 other things at the time, which is never a good thing. So that's our starting point, is our veggies, and you could add more or less, but the cooking softens the veggies and makes them more bioavailable, the nutrients, rather than having too much raw stuff. Raw vegetables are very hard for the digestive system to digest. And often it's fiber that irritates people and causes gut issues. So we can't have, personally, I can't have a diet that's too high in fiber. For years, I had a healthy diet with grains and legumes, and oh my God, I had mushy poos every day. So I know that's a bit too much information, TMI, but we are kind of interested in that kind of thing, right? So the next step is we're going to add, instead of water, we're going to add nourishment, liquid protein and healthy fats. And so I have here, this is my broth. I put this on Monday. No, I put it together on Monday, put it in the fridge Monday night. I had it cooking in the garage all day on Tuesday. And normally, while it's still warm, the next morning, I will separate all the chicken out and filter out the liquid and that kind of thing. But because I was talking to you guys, I left it, which means it's all kind of hardened a little bit. But I just need a little bit here. So this was carcasses from the beautiful carcasses using the whole animal. The butcher sells these carcasses with quite a bit of chicken still on them. So I'm going to keep all of that, and I'm going to save that for, on crackers or on sandwich if you eat bread, or, kind of taco mix or something like that. And the beautiful, you can see here, it's floating, is the schmaltz, as the Jewish people call it, or it's chicken fat. Very nourishing for the digestive system. So it's the fat and the liquid protein in broth that heals the gut lining. It really helps rebuild all those junctions and all those cells that just are hungry for protein, because we know that protein, see, I've got an onion in there, beautiful onion. I don't need to, what am I going to do with that? Hold on a second. We know that protein builds bodies, builds cells. I mean, even the ads on TV tell us that. So if we don't have adequate protein, and honestly, lots of women do not eat enough protein. And the way you can tell that is you crave sugars. The body might be hungry all the time. My strategy with a lot of my menopausal clients is to get them off or reduce the carbohydrates, increase the protein, and oh my goodness, the changes that can occur. I'm not saying that you can totally get your, however many inch waist back, because that's not realistic, in my opinion. So I put a potato in there as well for potassium and other minerals. But I don't eat those. They're kind of dead by now. I actually put 2 little ones in. So here we have this beautiful pot. It's got a bit of gungy stuff in it. It's not pure smooth, so I will filter it. And normally it's a little bit easier because, as I mentioned, it's warm. So because, of course, you can put chicken feet in here as well, and chicken feet will make it like jelly. And if you have any joint issues or skin issues, or, you're aging too quickly, you're worried about wrinkles, that kind of thing, instead of drinking collagen powders, which are imbalanced, it's just one or two types of protein. You need the whole spectrum to have good, healthy cells. Then, the chicken feet, I know it sounds a bit strange, but it's what our great-grandparents used to do, using the whole animal, once again, being very respectful of nature. And you get this beautiful gelatinous broth that just nourishes not just nourishes the body, nourishes the heart and soul as well. I've had women really heal their dysfunctional eating and their addiction to dieting through just starting to eat this really simple way. All right, so it's a bit messy, but that's okay. Kitchens are meant to be a bit messy. Houses are a bit messy. Oh, look, I don't believe low carb either, Jenny. I love my sweet potato. I'm not going to throw all of that out. I'm going to take the chicken off those bones, but at a later date. And I think I'll filter this. Yeah, so I know that the, keto diet and low carb is kind of popular. Actually, before I do that, I need the bowl. So I'm going to show you, here are the lentils. So in the Wise Traditions diet, these carbohydrate-rich foods, which are often some form of seed. If you think about grains are seeds, nuts are really seeds, seeds are seeds, legumes are seeds. They all contain anti-nutrients in them to stop them from sprouting so they can wait for the right conditions. And it's those anti-nutrients that eventually produce the deficiencies, the vitamin nutrient deficiencies in us women, us human beings, especially by the time you get to your 40s and 50s. If you've been eating this way for a while, it starts to show in loss of mineralization of the bones, or in sarcopenia, where the muscles start to sort of atrophy. I mean, to a certain degree, it's normal because we're moving into a different stage of life. We're becoming more spiritual and less physical. And so the body does start to move into its autumn and winter phase. So what I've done, my point is here, what I've done with these lentils, and you could do it with the green ones or the brown ones or the whatever color that you like. These are split, so I can't sprout them, but I've soaked them. So soaking is one of the preparation techniques for carbohydrate-rich grain, legume foods. There's other things are leavening, soaking is one, obviously, leavening, sourdoughing, that kind of thing. And if we're to really eat these foods without giving ourselves nutrient deficiencies, and I have seen it over and over and over, these women in their 50s have this collection of symptoms, and I can see they haven't had enough XYZ for quite a while, and it's resulting in this. So this is 2 cups of lentils. I'm going to put it in with the onions or the leeks and the carrots. And then come over here. And we're going to add the broth. Filter. So if you have a roast chicken and everybody eats all the meat off it, and then you put all the bones in the freezer and make your broth, it'll be clearer than this. It'll be different again. And I do that sometimes too. And we'll do the rest of it. Don't worry about making a little bit of mess. Super easy to clean it all up. And this stuff used to take women days. They'd make their own butter, it'd take them all day. But we've got all these beautiful labor-saving devices, and they weren't meant to encourage us to not eat, not cook, which somehow it has happened, and to outsource it all to the big food companies or to restaurants. They're really meant to help us do this kind of stuff more quickly. And you can be super efficient, and you can eat like this really very easily. And I often say to myself, I think, oh, I don't have time for all that cooking stuff. And I think, or I might say to them, what if getting back into the kitchen and nourishing yourself and reconnecting with food and taking your personal care or your self-care to another level? What if that's the healing path? What if that's what you're meant to do to heal your heart disease or your depression or your, even think anxiety or autoimmune disease? All these things will heal with this approach. But often we go, no, I don't have time for that. I've got this to do and that to do, and that's fine, of course. But us who are interested in health, we really need to stay practical, stay realistic, and give people the truth. You can't supplement your way out of a bad diet. There you go. That's on there now for half an hour to or amalgamate and do its beautiful thing. Let me just check the messages. Is there any particular ratio of water to chicken carcass for the broth, or is it just a rough guess and anything else added beside the onion? Well, you know what? There's probably 50 million broth recipes that, the Jewish have theirs, and then I personally do it 3 or 4 different ways. Sometimes we'll buy one of those free range barbecue chickens from Woolies and eat that, or my husband will eat that, and we just save all the bones, and that's cooked chicken. Whereas this one that I've bought is raw chicken carcasses. So some people like Sula at the broth bar, she won't put anything else into it except the chicken. And I would often I'll put peppercorns in mine, bay leaves, a bit of vinegar, a carrot. I don't like celery, so I don't put celery in it, but that's actually really good because it's got sodium nutrients in it. And a potato and an onion. But I'm sure there's other people who do it differently. But great question. Thanks, Mary. Okay, next thing. I put this together and I was thinking at the weekend, I must have been hungry or something, because I thought, oh, what can I make? And I decided I would make some, what the Americans call, and my husband's American, so they call it biscuits, buttermilk biscuits. And this is the Bible. Some of you may have seen this. This is the Bible, Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon. It's not just a recipe book, but it's an instruction manual for teaching you how to properly prepare foods that actually nourish the body. And I found in here buttermilk biscuits or buttermilk scones. And so very simple, but this also is reflecting 2 things that I wanted to point out with this recipe. And let me just grab it for you. One is that the wheat is properly prepared. So wheat being also a grain, of course, which so many people, no, not biscuits, no, not cookies. The Americans call our scones biscuits. I know it's confusing. So I have soaked this in buttermilk, which I just bought from the supermarket. This is a cultured food. So if you fermenting is another way. I was trying to remember before, leavening, that sourdoughing, soaking with whey, or you can do it with lemon juice sometimes if you're dairy intolerant. But I absolutely love dairy. And this buttermilk is a cultured food. So I poured in, as per recipe, the amount in there, and it's been sitting there for 24 hours. And the little bugs, all those little bugs that just keep us alive and are our saviors and populate our guts. And if we didn't have them, we wouldn't exist. Those little things that we are so afraid of when they're, called viruses, or like we're so, often so cultured or indoctrinated to be afraid unless things are sanitized, which is, I think, our undoing. There you go, another opinion. I'm over 50, I'm allowed to have an opinion. And so those little bugs in there have been digesting the gluten and breaking things down and making it much more easy for our bodies to tolerate. This is delicious. It's a little bit sour as well. So when you kind of attune your taste for sour foods, they become absolutely divine. A little bit of yogurt, a little bit of sourdough, sauerkraut, these kinds of things. They all provide the bugs, the friendly bugs, not just bacteria. Sometimes it's other things like scobies, for example, are other bugs. These are what rebuild the microbiome, and that's what feeds us. That's what feeds us. They literally, those bacteria, those microbes produce our vitamin K and our short-chain fatty acids, etc., etc. And if you have dysbiosis, then that looks like maybe constipation, mushy poos, diarrhea, burping, bloating, undigested food in the stool, all those kinds of digestive symptoms. And sometimes the digestive system can even look like it's pretty fine. But it's not, because maybe you've got acne, or the younger ones might have acne, or maybe you've got migraines or headaches. These often come back to the liver, the digestive system. Fermented cheeses definitely count. All right, so I'm using the Thermomix just because I've got one, an old one at least, but you could use whatever you've got at home. I'm going to get the machine, hopefully. I haven't done this on air before, so forgive me if it goes pear-shaped. And honestly, I'm better off not having too much bread, and not having, like many of you, avoiding the gluten because they've messed with it, basically. It's not what it used to be. And I do think that if you want to fatten somebody up, you feed them grains. And so if we're weight conscious, which so many of us women are, excuse me, then don't mess with your protein and don't mess with your fats. Obviously, you've got to have a reasonable amount of fat. You can't overdo it. But it's the carbohydrates. And that's not necessarily low carb. I just think it's really low starchy carb, which is all the comfort foods that we love, right? But the more nourished your body is with protein and fats, then the less sugar, but the blood sugars stabilize over a period of time, and that helps depression, and that helps anxiety, and that helps hormone balance. that helps you sleep. So having good blood sugar regulation, super important. And so we do need to eat, culturally, we eat way too much carbohydrate percentage-wise. These are gross generalizations, of course, that may not be the case for you or your culture, but just keep in mind things like that. So, what am I doing? Looking up my recipe. What do I have to do now? Place in food processor. And all right, I'm going to make some noise. It's on knead. It's only got a mind of its own now. Just mixing it, and then I'm going to add, this is the other thing I'm talking about. Partly it's the preparation of the grain so that we can digest it. It's not hard, you just have to be organized. So, you know, I put the lentils on this morning and soak them. It's not time, it's just preparation and remembering. And I'm actually going to use a mixture of lard and butter. So traditionally, breads and pastries that are light and fluffy, they use pork lard. And it's another beautiful fat that's been demonized. And yet, you know, generations of children have grown up on it. It's great for brains. It's great for healing the gut lining again. It's great for the adrenals, for our cortisol and our stress management and our resilience. All right, I'm going to add the fat now. So I've just melted some butter and some lard. And the lard, like I mentioned, I just got it from the local butcher. We've got a fabulous one right next door to our H Dispensary. Lucky me. There you go. I nearly lost it off the counter. And then I'm going to add some sea salt and baking soda, which I've got over here. Baking soda, 2 teaspoons. So when you start to eat this way, I have to warn you, it becomes very difficult to eat out because it is so delicious. So this way of eating tastes so incredible. And I think that's what nourishes us at a soul level. You know, you don't need as much. You kind of get satisfied with a lot less. It's a beautiful way to eat. How much lard and butter? 2 tablespoons of each to 3.5 cups of flour. And I used spelt flour, by the way. You can get a combination of spelt or kamut or regular flour, whatever you want to do. Anything else I need to add? No, that's it. And then I don't know if you guys have ever made scones, but you lay out the flour and you just kind of roll it out, and then I might put it on here, and then use a glass to cut things. So that's what Thermomix has done a great job there. Now I've got to try and get it out. And we want to put a bit of flour on there as well. So getting a little bit traditional here. Everyone loves a good scone, but you know, my mum started making them. I think she was adding sort of lemonade. That was the latest recipe. You add lemonade. It's like, what's happened to our traditional recipes? Oh my gosh, they used to be a source of nourishment, and what's happened? So, oh, this is beautiful. It smells divine. And it's a bit sticky. And of course, that's all the gluten in there. But if you ferment things properly, then they start to, those bugs start to break down those things that are indigestible to human beings. And there's a lot of things in grains that are indigestible, which makes it crazy that we eat raw oats, for example, so difficult for the digestive system, and then we toast them and cover them in sugar, and it's just, that is not healthy. That is not healthy. Sorry, but all right, let's just, where's my glass here and my tray? Hope you're having fun, guys. Happy to answer any questions. Lentil soups also used to lower cholesterol lowered. Oh gosh, I have to, that's a big thing, isn't it? Cholesterol. It's like, we all know, or some of us know about the cholesterol myth. And yes, you can have unhealthy cholesterol, and you can have, and it's very little to do with how much you eat, actually. Body needs a certain amount to come from food, and has a lot more to do with stress, and because cholesterol is a raw material for our steroidal hormones, our testosterone, so we need it. But can you see this? I'm having lots of fun here. Kind of reminds me of my childhood. And then get my hands all into it, kind of hands-on cooking, really. So I think if you support good liver function, then your cholesterol will regulate. If you're talking about triglycerides as well, that has a lot to do with carbohydrate consumption and sugar consumption, because fats, sugars get turned into fats and triglycerides as well as being in fat. So I'm not really answering your question, Ebola, but it's because it's kind of a lot more complex than we think. And honestly, I don't worry about it. So I haven't had a blood test for a while, but if my cholesterol was slightly high, first thing doctor would do is want to put me on statins. I'd say, no, thank you very much. And I'm going to pop these in the oven. Right, how long do they need? 40 minutes. I might just, hey Siri, set the timer for 35 minutes. All right, and I'll do a few more just because there's a little bit more pastry here, but I will do that a little bit later. What I'd like to show you next is if you do like bread and you're okay with a little bit of sourdough, I want to encourage you to make your own. I get into the habit lately I've been having more bread than I normally have, and I think it's because I've needed a little bit of extra comfort. Not quite sure why, but I can kind of feel it in my body. I'm having a bit too much. So usually though, it's a Sunday morning treat. So I have my sourdough, my eggs, and then I might have some bacon with it, or I might have some mushrooms from the market. You know, they've got fabulous mushrooms there. And it's like brunch on Sundays, my cup of tea and, you know, leisurely breakfast. And that's my treat time where I'll have the bread. And I've been buying like gluten-free bread, and I think, oh my goodness, it's just not very nice. I don't really believe gluten-free bread's any healthier for you than regular bread. And so I haven't done this for a while because I've just moved into my new house here. And I'm going to make myself some sourdough. So you start with rye flour because that's the most easily kind of fermentable. Gluten-free bread, yeah, full of seed oils, and those industrial seed oils are bad news, really bad news. So I'm taking just 2 cups of this beautiful flour. I got it from the health food store. You could grind your own and get all fancy, which Sally Fallon kind of tells you to do, but I don't have a grinder. I don't really want to do that. And then, yep, so there's your flour. And then all we do is add the same amount of water. Got some filtered water, and then a wooden spoon. And honestly, you literally, that's it. So you mix that up. So it becomes kind of like a porridgey sort of thing. You can find recipes for this. This is rye flour. You can see it's a little bit darker there. And make sure all the bubbles or the lumps have kind of been mixed in. And then you literally leave that. I've got here, I bought this somewhere, just some cheesecloth. And I'll fix this up after we've finished here because it's a new packet. I'm literally going to put that over the top with a rubber band and leave it overnight. And then the next day I will add some more flour and add some more water, stir it up again, change bowls and do all of that, stir it up again. And then after a few days, it starts to bubble, it starts to ferment. It's like a live thing. It's a science experiment in your house, and it's utterly fantastic. And then you do that, you literally, it's just water and flour. The bugs are in the air. It kind of, you know, who knows at a spiritual level whether the things that are in our environment are healing us or harming us. But there is a great narrative that I believe in, that those bugs are going to come in and land and support us and nourish us. And I mean, that might be a little bit woo-woo, but I think it's a nice concept anyway. It's a nice imprint to put in on your bread that it's nourishing you at so many different levels. So that's sourdough. So I've showed you sourdough. I've showed you fermenting flours with buttermilk. I've shown you stock or broth, actually. Stock is cooked for much shorter time. So we showed you chicken broth, and then we're cooking the lentil soups. We've cooked fried the vegetables gently, slowly in butter. Butter is so nourishing. Could be ghee. If you're a little bit sensitive to milk solids, you could use ghee. My own ghee as well. It's super easy. Don't spend mega dollars buying stuff like this. Literally is, I don't know, half an hour or something. Right. The next thing, I'm going to make some tea. So I have some water here. I'm going to put it on the fire. Maybe should have put that on a while ago because it might take a little while to boil. But I have, because I work in like an apothecary, I have really become familiar with the dried herbs. So we have like 200 dried herbs. If you go online, you'll see some of them for the H Dispensary. And we have a herb of the week, which we make into a tea or something. And so I actually bought myself this is withania or ashwagandha. This is astragalus, just in dried form. And then I've got some elderberries and some ginger. So once that water boils, and we might run out of time, so I'm just taking you through it. I'm going to throw these into the water, let it boil for a few minutes and switch it off, and then let it infuse and kind of steep. That's the word I was looking for. And then normally I might do that in the morning and have it hot for the day, or I might have it chilled. But this is the kind of medicine that drinking water, and ginger is fantastic for the fire of digestion. It's a wonderful anti-inflammatory for arthritis, and if you're getting joint pains and stiffness, that's great. Elderberries are amazing for the lungs and preventing or helping our lungs prevent colds and flus. Many of you know about astragalus. It's a beautiful immune herb, immune supportive herb, and withania is one of the most fabulous menopausal herbs. But you don't just have to have it as a pill. You can do it. You can engage in the ritual of tea making, which is a very beautiful way to make life more sacred, more deliberate, more intentional, more present, that kind of thing. And with that beautiful teapot that I've got there, I can see it. I can engage in it. I can connect with it. I don't know, there's something, it's spiritual, I suppose, that you can make food sacred. You can make life sacred. You can make your body sacred. And certainly menopause is a really great time for that to happen, because life kind of doesn't work if you don't. That's a whole nother topic on a whole nother day. But if you follow me or work with me or connect with me, it often comes back to that. Let me just check the messages. Do you think rye is better than spelt? Well, rye is good for making the starter. So when you make the bread, you use half starter and then half some kind of grain. And that for me is usually wheat or spelt, or the health food store told me that they have this sprouted biodynamic wheat, which they then grind. So I'm going to try that next, but it's wholemeal. So it'll be a denser bread, but I'm going to, have a play with it. Spelt sourdough. Yeah. So if you don't want to do all of this, then sourdough bread, if it's properly sourdough'd and not done as a gimmick, then it should have that sour flavor, and your body is going to absorb some of the nutrients in that wheat and that grain. Apparently it's got protein, apparently it's got zinc, but you won't get any of that out if none of it's bioavailable. And then of course you have to have lots of butter with it, because the fat will help you absorb the nutrients. Fat's super important for so many biological processes in the body. So that's why I always say that salad is meant to be dressed. Once the sourdough is bubbling, what happens next? Well, it just keeps working away. So you just let it do its thing. And then the next day you swap it into another bowl. You mix in a cup of water and a cup of flour, mix it in. So it's growing and it's growing and it's kind of feeding and it's digesting. And then you've got a starter, and then you use half to make your bread. And then you can either put that starter in the fridge so that it stays ready for next time, or if you want to do a bread, if you've got a family to feed and you want to do a bread a week, then you keep going. You just add a cup of water and a cup of flour, and it ferments away. So it's like your kitchen can be a fermentation factory. All right. Please keep going with the questions. Amazing. And then the final thing I was going to do in the last 3 minutes that we've got together is I absolutely love ice cream. And then I get lazy and I don't do anything about that except buy something from the supermarket, and I don't particularly like it. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do it because we will come to a close in a moment. But when I did my GAPS training, I was working with Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. One of her favorite things was what was called Russian custard. And Russian custard is basically egg yolks and honey. And it's just super nourishing. If you look up egg yolks, benefits of egg yolks, it is rich in cholesterol, but the good cholesterol that feeds our adrenals, that balances our hormones, it helps us sleep and helps us be resilient to stress. These are the important things for good quality cholesterol in a diet. So I have here, I've made 12 egg yolks, and I'm going to mix it. I've got a Jo Whitton. Some of you may know Jo Whitton, chef, I think she is. Her recipe for ice cream. And so I'm going to make Russian custard, and then I'm going to freeze it, and it's just to die for. Just, one of the things that you can do for recovering from adrenal fatigue is recipes that have high levels of this kind of cholesterol in it. And egg yolks for fertility, for example, this kind of strategy, a shake that's got egg yolks in it, egg yolk ice cream. And yeah, you might think, oh, yuck, egg yolks, but you put a bit of vanilla in it, and you put a bit of honey in it, or maple syrup or something, and you don't get that eggy smell or taste, but super nourishing for the adrenals. And how many of us need that? But if you're totally burnt out, then this is like a daily, not 12 maybe, or so some people have 12, but this is kind of a no-brainer. There is an adrenal shake recipe for both the GAPS and the Western Price, and it literally has this sort of 6 to 12 egg yolks in it, some homemade cream. Everything's going at once. Homemade sour cream, and a little bit of salt for the chloride, and the salt for the adrenals, and so on. And that's like medicine for recovering from burnout and adrenal fatigue. So it isn't, we're told to rest. That's also super important. But you need both, I think. So I'm going to mix that up in my Thermomix, and add the honey and keep that. And I'm going to add a little heat to it. If it's organic eggs, then usually you're fine, but the recipe has a little bit of heat in it, which I can do in the Thermomix. And then a bit of salt and a bit of vanilla, and I'm going to make vanilla ice cream. So yum, yum, yum. All right, I'm going to pop these herbs into my tea, and then we'll wrap it up. They are beautiful tonic. Teas can be amazingly sustaining and nourishing and medicinal. Dairy-free ice cream. Yeah, just eggs and honey, frozen, pretty much. So, how would I like to end? I love menopause and working with women through that stage. It's just such a beautiful time of life. It's a time to give up being so hard on ourselves. It's a time to soften. It's a time to focus on ourselves and what we would like to get out of the rest of our lives. Sometimes it's about cleaning up things from the past, letting things go, learning to let go and surrender, which is what sleep is teaches us really. And all of it's made easy by a nourished body. You know, this is the vehicle that we're in. This is the body that we were given, and it's the only one we're going to have until we die. So I would say, if you're thinking, wow, I might have a look at this as an experiment, do it for a month and just see what happens. See what happens when you nourish yourself from the inside out and your body's actually getting the nutrients that it needs to run things inside. Give it a crack for a month and see how you go. And yeah, find me on Facebook, find me through ATMS, and I'm your champion. Thanks for being here and have a great evening. Over to you, Annie.
Oh my goodness, that was just so amazing. I'd just like to close with thank you so much, Brenda, for allowing us into your kitchen, giving us a little taste of the homemade. I feel like jumping into mine now and just making something, or just brings me back to, valuing what I love most of all is just your genuine passion and to share. And it just came across. So, for all of you, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Yes, it just
Yes.
so lovely. So thank you so much for your generosity and time, but also just for all of you who've attended. And I can see a few familiar faces now. You're coming along to our Natural Medicine week/month events. Just keep booking in. They're all free. We've got something every day for you. And as you can see, this is our first time in the kitchen. We're just doing different things. We have so many wonderful highly qualified practitioners within our organization, and that some of them are our ambassadors, and they're giving up their time for Natural Medicine Week just to really make sure that we can just share some of that knowledge and to get more and more people educated and interested in natural therapies, natural medicine, and today food for your soul, and just magnify that. Look at how you can just share that now with your family, and you just feel like immediately, I don't know if you're like me, you feel like you just have more wholesome conversations, and just feels so warm. I just got so much out of that session. So jump onto the naturalmedicineweek.com.au website. You can just drop in for more and more webinars. Of course, if you miss anything, we've got them on our YouTube channel, and you can watch some catch-ups. You'll all be shared that with us, and tell your friends to come and join us. It's always lovely to be here live. So oh my goodness, who doesn't want one of those scones out of Brenda's oven? We're gonna leave her here now. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you again tomorrow, some of you. Okay, bye-bye. Bye, Brenda.
Hey, thanks, Annie.